Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our GYST Podcast, where we help you get your together.
Okay, so just a second. So silence, please. Okay. Okay, so we are good. What? Anyone know the date today?
6th.
6/12/6. Michael, are you not joining us?
Oh, I thought you said... when you said introducing the guest, I thought I came in at that time.
Oh, no, I just meant, like, on air. Because the audience doesn't know who you are yet.
If you want
Got
to
it.
do those three.
Yeah.
What's up?
All right.
I'll say these two if you want to say those three.
I just thought if they saw something they didn't know, they would...
Oh. Okay, cool. This one? What is that
How
one?
many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, so he'll say one, I'll say two, and I'll say
2,
two.
2, 1. Cool.
Sure.
I'll take it.
Okay, so we'll do the normal intro. And then right away, I'll introduce the team. So myself, Kyle, I'm Ruben. And then I'll go into the lesson. And then we'll... Okay, let me rephrase. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Open as normal, introduce ourselves. This is a different episode. Then we'll read. Then comes the lesson. I'll intro Michael and hand it off.
Read what? These?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to start off first?
Stats though, right? You're going to say the stats?
I think you should.
The stats are going to be part of the lesson.
Got it.
So where are the stats?
I don't know. You just read them.
Cool. Thank you. Okay.
Poll stats. I thought you were talking about the stats that Glenn sent.
Oh, no.
Should that be shared?
I don't have those stats. Is that something we should
It's in
print
Slack.
off real quick?
That's what I thought you were talking about the whole time.
Oh, no, I was talking about our.
Which is good to share.
Uh-huh. You think?
But because what Michael and I were discussing as well, that kind of made us hastily put this episode in today was due to the holidays.
Got it. So, Glenn, that lives in Slack?
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
one that Glenn just sent the other day. Just grab a phone.
For what?
Slack.
He wants to print
Slack. Oh, you want to print it?
The stats.
I
Just pull out one or
Holidays
two
are coming.
things. Yeah, I was
Those
going to say
lines
just pull
are
out one or
leaving.
two things and write them down.
Ring the
Oh,
bells.
okay.
We're singing.
I like it.
So, do you remember where you put them, Glenn, by chance?
Oh, I forgot. Was it general or?
Oh, it was in general. There it is.
I forgot. We have so many threads now, Rohit. We gotta get rid of some of those threads.
Yeah, I want to. So if you
We
take a
gotta
look,
condense.
I want to make those two,
What two?
the two teams.
Podcast team and marketing team.
Yeah.
What are we gonna get
Those
rid
would be
of?
the two threads.
What are we gonna get rid of?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, we gotta get rid of threads. I
Yeah.
don't want any new threads until we get rid of at least 2 or 3.
Yeah. Dude, this is a whole bunch of stats. I don't know how to
How to what? Pick a couple.
read this.
Let me see.
Might even get the guest feedback on the stats.
Leading cause of death in the United States. Bet you didn't know it was suicide. I didn't till just now.
That's the leading cause?
You're surprised, wouldn't our listeners be? That's a stat we want to
You know,
share.
if you take suicide out of all the gun violent deaths in America, we actually are pretty low on murder rate.
Got it. Because they are including gun-related
They're-
suicides.
Literally, they're
Got it.
including about
Wait.
17,000 deaths a year, which are
So it's not
There's
categorized.
suicide by cop. Have you heard of that term?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
and that's included
Yeah.
in those stats.
For,
too.
for the
Oh.
military, specifically,
Mm-hmm.
they're big, and law enforcement. Their biggest
Directly
way.
disobeying a command
Well, no.
that would.
It's basically
What would it be?
drawing a weapon They find out they're usually unloaded and everything else.
Just
All
so they
law
can get shot.
enforcement, just so they can get shot.
Oh.
Wow.
And then it
Still a
doesn't
form
imp-
of suicide, but to them it doesn't feel like they're suicide.
The end
So
result is what they
suicide by
wanted.
cop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking stats like that, gun-related deaths does not differentiate between suicide and homicide.
Right.
It just includes
So the
all.
leading cause of gun-related deaths is suicide.
No.
No.
All
This has nothing to do with gun-related deaths. That was
They just
something
brought
else.
up-
So the leading cause
Yeah.
of all death
All death in the U.S.
over
is
like
Cancer and
listen.
all that stuff.
Suicide is a leading cause of death in the United States. According to the CDC, in 2015, suicide was the 10th leading cause of death overall in the United States, claiming the lives of more than 44,000 people.
See, how does that make sense?
2015, it went from 10th to
Oh, is
number 1.
a leading cause. Sorry, not the leading
Oh,
cause.
okay.
So I was a little bit misleading.
So it's the 10th cause.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
So 10th leading cause?
yeah, it's in the top 10.
Okay.
I like that better. Saying it's in the top 10.
Top 10.
Does it reflect how much it goes up in the holiday seasons or around holiday periods?
That's what I'm trying to see. Trends over time. I don't know if that's seasonally or no. Yeah, that's over a couple decades, not seasonally.
I'm sure it does, but that site's a little bit hard to navigate.
And you can throw out a number and let somebody else figure it out. Somebody else grab a phone and ask Siri or ask Google.
Yeah, somebody grab something. Grab something real quick.
Go Google. How many more increase of suicides?
Alexa, do suicides increase during the holidays?
The public holidays in Washington for 2007.
Alexa, shut up.
For a second, I'm like, this bitch replied it. Wow.
Alexa, I love you.
That's really sweet.
I got friend zoned by Alexa. That's a new low.
Alexa, what's the increased percentage of suicides over the holidays?
The public holidays in Washington for 2017 are November 10th, 2017.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Alexa, shut up.
It works.
Cool.
This is from CDC.gov. CDC's National Center for Health and Statistics reports that the suicide rate is in fact the lowest in December,
In December?
which I'm shocked.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. I mean,
Yeah.
the highest is
The
depressional
CDC
season.
says it's a myth.
That's what it's saying. The CDC says it's a myth. Suicide fact or myth.
Wow.
I guess it's probably January when they.
I was just gonna say, what about January?
when they get all their bills?
I was just saying to get the bill. Or when Rohit has his Christmas party.
So let's just not bring it up then.
Yeah.
Just stick with one of the leading.
Let them go with
causes
the
of
lies
death.
they already believe.
Mm-hmm.
Empowering or disempowering? It's kind of refreshing having you here because I feel like I
The
can
rate
have a different
the
vocabulary
rate peaks
with you
in spring
Yeah.
and
than
then
like
fall.
what I normally have. You know.
Changing of the seasons
Peaks in spring and in fall.
You're like, what?
during the solstices. Then
Hmm?
This pattern has not changed in recent years. The holiday suicide myth supports misinformation about suicide that might ultimately hamper prevention efforts.
How's the hand turn? Okay.
It's cool they say that it actually peaks during the spring and fall.
But it is safe to say that suicide is the number 2 leading cause of death among teenagers. And essentially, it's the age group 15 to 34.
1534.
Yeah.
That's an old team.
I wonder how much that takes into play.
Yeah.
What's that?
That
Bullying.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about social media.
For 10 to 14 age group, it's the number 3 leading cause of death, behind unintentional injury and malignant neoplasms.
Mm.
cancer.
Cancer.
No,
I don't know why they don't
Okay.
just say
Cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Or Neoplasm.
It's the CDC.
New.
See, second amongst 15 to 34 year olds is suicide.
Yeah, so 15 to 24 and 25 to 34 both is the second leading cause of death. Number one, unintentional injury.
Over like accidents and
Unintentional
Unintentional injury is number one.
Oh, okay.
Accident.
Accident. Yeah.
That's a big word for unintentional injury.
Wow, more than like health problems and stuff too,
Yeah.
huh?
Because they're 15 to 34.
Generally, the young people.
Cancer is number 4. Homicide is number 3 for both of these age groups. Heart disease is number 5. It's a huge difference. Less than 1,000 from the 15 to 24 age group, and 3,700 deaths from heart disease in the 25 to 34 age group.
And what was the
It's a huge
statistics
jump.
taken in 2015?
2015, yeah, 2 years ago. Liver disease, 25 to 34.
To compile.
Drinking.
Well, yeah.
So we ready to do this?
Yeah.
Phones away?
He likes
Dude,
clocks.
okay, this
When you
is
start,
weird.
you're gonna do this one, and then
Okay.
I'm
Go
gonna do
ahead.
these, and then
Yeah.
Thomas can do
Why
this.
are both of your clocks stopped at almost exactly the same time?
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Wow.
Do you have a shutdown battery?
He's got a,
force,
yeah, he's
you
got a
know?
smart battery in his car.
Glitch in the matrix.
I'm like, wait a minute, what? It's the same time.
Okay, so I'm doing this.
Different.
Uh-huh.
So am I only doing one?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm doing 2, so you're gonna hand that one back to me, so I can do this one.
Back to
and this
you.
one.
Okay, cool. Ready?
You have what you need?
He has it. Whenever they're done.
You're gonna go after.
So, Michael, I don't know if you cuss or not, but
No.
usually, okay. In that case, never mind.
I mean, I won't, but
okay, that's fine then.
Yeah, because we never do.
I'm
Yeah.
noticed that.
He's
Somebody-
alive.
Okay. So, we ready to do this, fellas?
Are we doing the intro the same way?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Take your
Last
stations.
time.
Wait, Kyle, how do you want to keep track of time?
We don't.
Yeah.
Is of the essence.
We can use the. Oh, we can't.
I feel like we at least should.
Okay.
We got Glenn.
So I'll put an hour on here.
I will watch this
Okay.
clock.
I'll watch the watch.
The clock is not working.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta watch though.
So, and also, Michael,
Why don't we just put a fucking timer?
So I'm going to call for a moment of silence.
It's a really
And
good
it's
question.
10 seconds of just...
I've never in the history of this podcast considered that, and it took Michael saying I gotta watch for Amit and I to realize the entire time we've been using an oven timer. We have
Yeah.
fucking smartwatches with timers built into them.
I was wondering why you guys didn't do it
You bought the oven timer.
before you guys had those watches, though.
No, I've had this for a couple years.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been smart yet.
Yeah. I think the user has to be smart enough to figure out what he's
Well,
got.
you have to realize you have to look at it too.
Well, yeah.
But when you look at it, it's always dark.
I'm
That's true.
We
I
gotta make
don't
sure
have
we
you
give
at
the
all.
cue to remove the beep.
Nope. Kyle's perfect right now.
Yeah. Thanks.
And Glenn has no value.
Shut up, Glenn. Oh. Oh, we got Amit.
How long are we trying to have the session for?
You go with that or no?
Yeah.
Ladies,
Ladies. Funny guy.
go ahead.
Yeah.
How long?
Funny guy.
For what?
The session.
I would say, I mean, I'd like to know when it's been maybe
40 minutes?
40 minutes.
Well, let's just do the watch in front of you then, Rohit. Because is that going to beep when it goes off? Tells
Yeah.
you what time it is? You don't want that, do you?
No.
Trust me, this is better than the kitchen timer.
Well, I got that, but
We got a little more space. I moved it back a little bit by opening the blinds a little.
Okay.
You good with that?
Cool. Yeah.
You ever close this
It doesn't
so we
matter.
don't look at it?
Sure.
so here's your time.
Okay. Ready, fellas? Is everyone good?
We are golden. Grams. You
All
want
right.
to start this or no?
On 40?
That's a 62.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so moment of silence in...
Sorry, was that yes or no?
Yes.
When we do moment of silence.
Okay.
3, 2, Amit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of your favorite podcast, the GYST Podcast, also known as Get Your Shit Together. Yes! Excellent. Excellent job, my friends.
Anything for you.
Oh, shucks. All right.
Oh, shucks. Golly gee willikers.
So, Amit, just a reminder, please, you speak the quietest. Please speak loudly into this microphone.
in front of everybody.
He did. He put me on blast.
Ooh. Who are you mad at right now?
The microphone, because it was
Is that
recording too?
Yeah,
It's recording, but he's still being cut off.
What do you mean?
From
I've seen him.
There we go. Okay.
He's been in the whole time.
Not that big.
No, because he was off in the corner over there.
You've been drinking.
Okay. I hate you. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, serious time. Time for real talk. This, if you have been following us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, if you are friends with any of us on any of those platforms, you know that this is a special episode. So this episode is all about suicide and why you matter. A lot of times, the great majority of the time, we joke around, we have fun, but something happened, and we started getting 20,000 plus listens all over the world, and we realized that there are certain things that we need to do as a responsibility to our customers. Not to our customers, sorry, work mode. To our listeners. And the way this episode kind of came about was I was having a conversation with a good friend, and I had no idea, but that person told me, we were talking about what's the day that turns your life around? What's the moment? And this person told me it was when they had a gun in their mouth and their own hand on the trigger. And they realized they can never do that again. And then a couple hours later, after the friend told me that, had another friend reach out to me, someone that I hadn't talked to in about 7 years or so, and just a simple text saying, bro, I'm not in a good spot, and I need some positivity. You were the first person that popped into my head. Now, this person is someone that Kyle and I both know. And so after I talked to him, I called Kyle, and I was like, Kyle, we've got to do something. So that's how this episode kind of came about. And so this is going to have a different take than normal. And we're going to start it off by, on our Facebook, we posed a survey, and we got some tremendous feedback from everyone. And so we're going to go over just some of the quotes that people had about just suicide in general and how it's touched their lives. So with you, part of the team, I am Rohit Rohila.
Kyle Reed.
Amit Bardwaj on the mic.
Ruben Marquez.
And then we also have our new, welcome to the podcast, Glenn. Glenn Rux, who is going to be doing a lot of the artwork that you're going to be starting to see on our social media accounts. So welcome to the team. So with that, let's get started. So what we're going to do is just read directly from a lot of the feedback. And also we want you guys to know, we like to keep our normal episodes at about 30 minutes. And we do a good job of keeping track of the time. We're not with this. So we don't know when this episode's going to end. But this is all from the heart. This is a bit more serious. If you just listen to us casually when you're at the gym or something like that, maybe this isn't the best episode for that. But this is something that we take great pride in. And just from a personal standpoint, I'm so proud of this team because we all came together and created this for you guys. So with that, one of the feedbacks that someone wrote was, I often tell people that we can't let down thoughts. Okay, sorry.
We can't let down thoughts.
Okay. I often tell people that we can't let down thoughts get the best of us. No storm lasts forever. We must keep fighting and pushing through because suicide is a permanent solution to temporary problems.
Good stuff.
Suicide is not just a teen issue. I've known children as young as 6 who have thought about attempted suicide. The world is a scary place. The world is a scary place these days, and we need to be supporting, accepting, and loving each other. Sadness and feeling alone is temporary. Even if you don't see it right away, people love and need you. Hang in there. It will get better.
Thank you, Ruben. And we got Amit. Amit, come on.
Anyone pondering suicide, absolutely let other people know where your thoughts are at. Don't let the quote unquote, oh my God, you're just looking for sympathy / attention, dissuade you from coming forward about your feelings. It is indeed from a self-defense against ending your life. So please, yell out for your help. To decrease suicide, you need to build people up and teach everyone, starting with the kids and throughout your childhood, all the way into your adulthood. The skills to be resilient. There are great programs out there, but the skills need to be taught through life, not just a seminar because of a suicide.
Thank you, Amit.
Cool. So we had some really positive things that people were saying, but at the same time we had a lot of hurt as well. And so with this questionnaire that we sent out, we had about 60 plus people respond. And these numbers were very shocking to me, especially because most of the people who responded are people that I know. You know, these are people who we're all friends with. So with the question, do you know anyone who has considered suicide? Over 90% said yes. Do you know someone who has attempted suicide or has taken their own life? 73% said yes. Have you ever considered suicide? And of our friends, 60% said yes. Have you ever attempted suicide? Of our friends, 25% said yes. So 1 out of every 4 of our friends has tried to commit suicide. Suicide is also in the top 10 of leading causes of death in the U.S. And amongst most of our listeners, age group 15 to 34, it's actually the second leading cause of death.
Behind what?
Behind accidents, number 1, and more than cancer and murder.
Wow.
So this is going to be a tough episode. And so with that, I would like to introduce one of my mentors. And one of the things that I always talk about on this podcast is the importance of mentors. And one of my mentors for a long time has been a man that I have nothing but love for, Michael Johnson, who has just... Michael, I'm just so proud of all the things that you've done. And the fact that you are still a part of my life and have allowed me to be a part of your life is just amazing. And I think it's going to be such a treat for our listeners to hear about you, your story, what you're doing with the Reboot Combat Recovery Program. And so with that, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. And I know you've got some of your own experiences to kind of share with us.
Okay, thank you. And it is an honor and a privilege to be here with all you guys and then also here for others to hear. This is an area that's interesting for me. There is some experiences. And just even as Rohit was sharing, just want to encapsulate a couple of things. And that was the interesting thing. He says, you know, he's been a part of my life. In fact, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Rohit. In December 2009, when I was at a very dark place. And we were involved in a leadership program and stuff, and he happened to reach out, and that was right around Christmas in December of 2009, and said, hey, they're having another seminar coming to Puyallup or Tacoma in January 2010. And I went to that with him, and it was one of my things that was a very instrumental change in my life. And when we graduated that weekend, 4-day seminar, when we graduated that weekend, I walked across the room with a bobber in my hand, a float from a fishing expedition thing that I was on just that December. And I was carrying that in my pocket as a reminder to keep myself afloat, that I have something to hang on to, and that my life was worth living for someone else. I just didn't know who yet. And it was because you reached out and say, hey, by the way, this is going on. Are you available to go? That's why I'm here today. And here today physically, and here today because of this subject. So a lot of things gone on in my life, a lot of things I've done very successful, everything. And in that year of 2009, a lot of stuff was ripped away. And a lot of it has to do more with the PTS things that I work with, and that's what the combat recovery program is really about. But one of the things that they pride themselves on is the fact that out of the programs that are available, this is one of the programs that has had 0 suicides in the people attending the course for the 10 years that it's been around. And in the military, there are a lot of suicidal deaths for a lot of reasons that we'll go into. So one of the questions you asked in that, or the comments that your viewers noted is, have you thought of suicide? Have you attempted suicide or planned it? And I have. It was in that place where I said, what else is there? I have nothing. Nobody cares whether I live or die. Or these were my beliefs. This is a story I was making up. And I entertained it. The more I entertained it, the more I went in that downward spiral into that dark area. And planned it. And I knew all kinds of ways. Most of it was using my vehicle. I can go too fast around a curve and go off the edge of a cliff, and I could plan it just right. I could calculate the speeds to go. I could go into some barriers or whatever. I knew strategies of how I can make it happen and look like an accident to save pride and dignity, if you will. So those things are there, and they were going through. And it was at that time when I was actually reaching out to my youngest brother and just shared what was going on. It was after the fact, after I actually went through the process and was more of a recovery. And that's what I want to hit on later on as we talk in this dialogue, is the fact that I wasn't willing to reach out in that place. Someone else had to reach in. And that's what we have to realize, that there's resources, there's call lines, there's this stuff. But when I'm stuck in that place, I don't want to reach out. I'm not thinking in the cognitive ability of what can help me in the moment. I'm trying to find out what can help me in the pain. And so in that process, as I did reach out to my brother, he goes, how dare you be so selfish that you would rob me of my brother? How selfish of you to hurt me that I'd never be able to go back to you and have that brother. And that was a wake-up call. And that was something and again, there's still emotion around that now, but that was something that was very heavy in a positive way. It was very solid in a, wow, there's something. And it was in that time, later on in 2010, another friend actually, these are all reflection points that I'm on right now as we're going into our graduation of the combat recovery program. But a friend of mine actually formulated Operation New Normal. And it basically realized the fact that whatever trauma, whatever events, whatever things we've gone through, you can't go back. It cannot be the same. You've got to start where you are. There's a new normal that's possible. And that's what, the real shift is realizing, yes, things have happened in my past. Things have been done against me. Things I've done. Whatever those things are, the circumstance, the results, they don't define me unless I surrender my power to it. And at any moment, I can choose that right now is a new opportunity for me to do something different. And here's my new normal. I define it from this day forward, how I proceed. And as we're looking at this part of the suicidology, if you will, what I like about what the reboot, the combat recovery program, kind of dialogues on is that they have 3 tenets that they go by. And the first one is community. As we were sharing downstairs a little bit prior to this, it was the fact that I don't know actually most of you guys, right? We're just here, we met on the porch, we met downstairs, we met once before over here, for some other events. But can we come together in commonality right now? Can we come together and share in a brotherhood of sort? In the military, that's what it's all about, is brotherhood. There may be something in me that you can connect with or experience, that you can share with, that can bring us together. That's what people are going to need for the solution. We're going to need people, because as we get together, as we can, I build that trust, you build that trust, you invest, and I can trust, then I can open up and share. And then we can get to that area that's the heart issue that needs to be, the wounds that are there that need to be healed and so forth. So that's what I really love about what they do, because the first aspect of community is having that connection with people, having relationships. Being in isolation is the most drastic part when people start going in that downward spiral. And that's where I was at. When I was checked out, when I was isolated, when I went off on my own thing, there's no one there to help. And the problem is I didn't want anyone to help. So when we know people, friends or something, and we're noticing a shift, noticing a change, and they're pushing away, something's building a wall. And we don't have to knock the wall down. We don't want to knock the wall down. But we do want to come alongside them as they're facing that wall and ask, hey, what's going on? Where are you at right now? What are you thinking about? What do can we tell that we're hurting? Yeah, I can sense something's up. What's up? How you doing? Fine. Right? Have we heard that before?
No.
Hey, how's everything going? Great.
Too many times.
Right?
But
are they? Huh?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. It's all good. Yeah, really? So tell me, what's good? Pull it back a little bit. Be willing to invest in there. Because a lot of times they're just pulling up, the smoke screen, putting up a thing, and seeing if anyone buys into it and leaves them alone. Because they don't want to have that connection. Yet we're created. God created us for connection, for relationship. And it's the wounds and hurts that keep us away from that connection. And so the first part is really looking at connection. And community does that. And community is whatever cluster of people you have. And then the second part of the community that we define is those are the community resources that are out there to help, which are fantastic. But I don't want help, right? Because I'm already withdrawing and going into isolation and retreating. No, in fact, I can't even share my problem because everyone's going to judge me, criticize me. I'm walking in my own shame and guilt. I'm keeping my secrets, whatever those are. And so as we learn to walk in trust and walk alongside, sometimes we don't even have to talk. We can just be there. And that's what these guys did when they took me fishing. They weren't talking about the stuff. They already knew some of the stuff. But they really weren't asking about the stuff. They're just saying, hey, let's just go do something together. Let's go fishing. And we're walking out and going in there and steelhead fishing and going through all these swamps and tromps and, all the stuff. It's all tangled up in that mesh along the bank was where that float was at. And when I looked down, that's what my life looked like. A bunch of string wrapped around a whole bunch of stuff and a little float just bobbling in the water, just barely afloat, being suppressed by all the entanglement held by the weeds and the string. And that was a sign to me to reach down and pull it out and cut away all that stuff that was restricted and just holding that in my pocket. I could always reach in and feel it, touch it, know that there was something to live for. The second thing was family that we work in, because everyone in this process that we're doing with the recovery, combat recovery, the trauma recovery process, is everyone's affected. And the question is, are we letting family in? Because often that's the first part we disconnect from. That's what happened with me. So if we separate ourselves, the beauty is that family can know when that's happening to reach in and help, to support, to invest in, whatever that may look like for that. And our third tenet that we use is actually service or contribution. And the beauty is when you've gone through that journey, when you've fought that battle and you have a victory, in that aspect, how much more you can give to others, how much more you can encourage. And as I was just sharing just the other day, is I don't have to have all the answers, and I don't have all the answers. I'm not an expert in suicidology or suicide prevention, but I know where to go when I don't. But what's important is I've taken 2 steps ahead of this person here. That means I'm leading. It only takes 2 steps to be ahead of somebody. And there's going to be a time when I'm going to need you to step up when I'm starting to get weary. And you get to lead for a little while. And I get to rest and watch you. All of us are growing. All of us are moving forward. And we're all on a journey. It just looks a little different. The paths are a little different. But we can relate. We can share. We can come and find that commonality. And we can fight it and beat it together. And I think that's where, as listeners, one of the things that we realize is if we're having thoughts of suicide and everything else, and one of the things we talked about before is that there's a whole bunch of components of the body, and I'm going to kind of butcher some of them, if you will. But when we're in the fight, freeze, and numb mentality, we call that the limbic system, right? And the amygdala and getting all the stuff that's going on. It's whatever we're perceiving by our senses and our mind or our own lies and thoughts, we're reacting to it. And chemicals in our body, different hormones are being released for us to survive that moment. And when that happens, we're usually filtering everything from the wounds that we had, that we experienced, and we're perceiving everything as a threat based on something that happened in the past. So whatever's going on in the moment, it looks so large and so overwhelming, but it really isn't. And there is hope and there is assurance. And it's really just having somebody to walk with, talk with, and meet with. Yet we want to survive, so the first thing we do is check out. We go into isolation. So the things that we need the most is what we're normally not going to look for or check into. And so that's why others coming in and reaching in is what's going to be valuable to us. The second thing is that as those hormones are going and everything else, it actually dislodges, if you will, it's not the technical term, but it actually cuts off our logic part because we go into a reactionary mode. We're reacting to circumstances and situations, and we actually cut off the prefrontal cortex, which is our thought process, or our creativity process that gives us solutions. So either way, we don't see the solution. We're stuck in the trees or stuck in the woods, and we don't care which one they are. We're in the midst of it, and it's all dark. But somewhere out there is. And if we can just get a bearing, just set an azimuth, and go in one direction, we'll eventually hit something that's going to be a clearing and get the light. But we trust nothing, we don't do anything, and we just go in circles, and we wonder why we're not getting anywhere. So again, realizing in that moment when stuff's going on, we're trying to survive, and we're really not thinking of the results of suicide. We're thinking, how can we end the pain in the moment? And not really recognizing the end result that happens. And I've heard a phrase that I really come to admire, and that is, suicide really is me transferring my pain onto those around me I love without any hope of a solution.
Oh.
I have a pain. I can't figure out the this, and I take this pain I have and I dump it on you. And now he's carrying a pain that he has absolutely no idea what to do and can't find a solution for. Asking questions, wondering why, how, what could I, should have, would have.
Yeah.
All these things we're carrying. I was there. I should have prevented. I could have stopped. I should have whatever. I'm carrying now all that guilt and all that shame that was left behind.
What?
Go ahead.
As you were discussing this, and that's the first thing that I'm coming to is the questions that everyone around you has and how disconnected you felt at certain times. What gave you the courage to have the conversation with your brother when he asked you?
Yeah, it was more of,
that
he didn't ask as much as I shared, and it was
Yeah.
when I got through that process to a point when I could. So I
Yeah.
wasn't in the darkness of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I'd already gone out. And again, it was him reaching out, right? And speaking, hey, let's go to this thing together. And he had no idea what was going on.
Wow.
we'd connected, I think, probably 2 or 3 months. Hey, what's going on? Text, whatever else. When it was, whatever, not just reaching out to him, whatever, just checking something, right? And then that's when, again, that was probably around September, October. And then in December, hey, by the way, they're having this. You want to go?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do I really want to go? But for whatever reason, I said, yeah, let's go. So that was that part of it. But again, it was him reaching in, him doing that. I was just finally to a place where I could reach out to my brother, and I was actually going to go down and visit for some other things. And was when I was there with him, sharing what I've been going through, how I've gone past that process, that's when he shared that point.
Got it.
So thanks.
Yeah. So you were in the tunnel, we'll say, when Rohit contacted you.
Correct.
And that was towards the end of the tunnel. You began to see some light.
That's what actually opened up the light to get into the tunnel.
Got it.
I didn't realize I was in.
Got it.
It was getting someone reaching in and actually going through that workshop and hearing truth, realizing, and the whole focus of that process is being responsible. Realize the choices that I'm making are producing the fruit the results that I'm having. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And what the combat recovery program actually goes into is, what is the root? We see the tree, we identify it by the fruit, but is it toxic fruit or healthy fruit? All depends on how it's being nourished. All depends on where the roots are setted and the conditions of the soil. Mine was in the darkness. Mine was in despair. Mine was in judgment. Mine was in abandonment, rejection. I had all these, later now I can put all the emotional names. That's another key point. What are you guys going through right now?
Recognition.
Recognizing what's going on and recognizing that's not who you are. Yes, you've been betrayed, you've been abandoned, you've been abused, you've been neglected, we can put a whole bunch of things on there. What happens is that we then take that on as an identity. Yeah, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, nobody does this. And I'll share, we had an example that, let's say, for example, I'm sitting here and I'm 4 years old. My mom and dad are going out on a date. They put me in the playpen, they call, the next door neighbor comes over to babysit and everything else. All sounds good. And he's going to watch TV and watch me and everything sounds perfect. I'm 4 years old and he's 13. And I'm playing, I'm maybe, crying about something, right? There's only 3 things babies cry about, right? So we'll go with that one, right? And he comes and he takes the big blanket and throws it over me, yells at me, tells me to shut up, throws pillows in there and everything else for me to be quiet. And now I'm scared and this, that, and I start making more noise and comes and shakes the crib and everything else. And he's not abusing me, or is he? This is in the 60s, who knows? But the fact is, what now am I feeling? Okay, nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. People abandon me, reject me. Boy, there's the first time I'm feeling this connection to this stuff. And now I'm having something similar happen when I'm 30 years old, 20 years old. And I'm feeling rejected, abandoned, discarded, whatever it is. I go back to that emotional state because that's where the first injury took place. And these are the thoughts that are now coming up. So everything looks hopeless. Everything looks dark, right? Blanket over you, dark. And the fact is, when those are coming up, God's just bringing that up to help us release it, to help us heal. Because I took on an identity. I've taken on a value about myself. We say that was the event that took place. But the story or the belief that I made up about me is my responsibility. Whatever I'm going through right now, lost a job, lost a girlfriend, lost, whatever. In most cases, when it comes to suicide, it's about a great loss. Something significant was taken. Usually it's out of injustice, betrayal, whatever. And everything seems hopeless. And we're entering into this season of hope, right? Again, the Christmas holiday season is about hope, joy, love, and peace. Those are the 4 tenets that we see on most of the cards that are floating around. Mm-hmm. And as we mentioned at the very beginning, I think is the fact is, the value is to realize that addressing the issue that we have here with this discussion on suicide is it's you that matters. You, the listener, are what matter. You are what are worthy and significant. We all have a purpose and a value to give. And to take that away, we're robbing ourselves of that gift. We're robbing those around us and the world of that gift. My son committed suicide 7 months ago. 21 years old. Got into drinking, all this other kind of stuff. Also was on medications for some other stuff, and took a gun to his head. Because he saw no other option. And suppose he was doing well. And I wasn't around, I wasn't connected because of, the divorce process I went through, which was the 2009.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever was going on, whatever pain he was, whatever demons he was wrestling with, those thoughts, he felt that that's the only way to escape. And the sadness is the fact that his namesake and who he was is he had a voice to use. He had a message to give, and it's silenced. Because the message that he was to give, whatever God had created and birthed in who he was robbed at an early age. And it's like, wow, how much he had of an opportunity to do that was never realized and will never be recognized because of a choice, a single choice in a single moment of desperation. And those choices are being made daily. And for military veterans, 22 are committing suicide a day.
It's huge.
Because they're wrestling with the stuff, the shame and the guilt and the insignificance and the loss. The loss of the people that were with them, or when they come back and something happens. Separations, families, divorce, broken up, abuse. They're dealing with the stuff they saw, and they're drinking to cover it up, and they lose everything around them. And now what do they have left? They still have stuff left. We all have something left. But it is going to take someone to look in and see my value when I don't see it. And say, hey, what are you doing? And I'll be honest, he didn't know. He didn't see what was there. But he knew what was there. His heart sensed, hey, by the way, what are you doing? Hey, let's do this. Let's get together. Hey, did you know, whatever it was. And if he didn't know it, God did and used him to reach me because I wouldn't listen. And there's a lot out there.
That's huge. You said something earlier. Thank you for sharing all that, first of all.
Sure.
You had said something earlier, and you mentioned the word injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that because I think it tells the listeners and everyone involved that it's just that.
Yeah.
Injuries heal. It's an injury.
Mm-hmm.
It will heal. It can heal. You can help it. People around you can help it heal. But until you recognize that, it's going to continue to fester.
Right.
If you fall on the ground and skin your knee and you never put a Band-Aid on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't do anything about it, it's never going to get any better. You have to address it. So I think that really struck a chord with me when you had mentioned that no matter what the feeling is, whatever the pain is, it's an injury and it can heal, given the proper attention.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. And I think that's what we need our listeners to believe. And I think open discussion is going to help with that.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying, too, because part of open discussion sometimes requires opening the wound to clean it out.
Absolutely.
Because part of the festering process is also the infection process.
It's trying to cover itself up.
Yeah, it's trying to heal and fight and everything else, but it's sealed up, it's covered up, and it's fighting the disease that's in there. We've got to reopen it, and it's painful.
Yeah.
And then we clean it out. And then within 2 to 3 days, the pain is gone and it's healing.
Because we addressed it.
Because we took care of the need. We met the need. Yeah. And that's what it really is as our listeners are partaking in this process is, identifying you have a need. And that's okay. We all have needs. And we have to find somebody that we can trust to reach out. It may be somebody they know. It may be somebody they don't know. It may be calling one of the hotlines. It may be calling another organization that specializes with people in certain circumstance, whatever that would be for them. But it really is reaching out to somebody. We talked, just reaching out to your friends, your family, somebody that you can trust. And we talked about well, I don't have any friends I can share this with. Anybody ever had that feeling?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I can trust. If I shared that with him, I mean, this is Twitter stuff, right? This is Facebook, man. This is, he does it all. It's gonna be, is it right? Did I tag you right?
Yeah.
Hashtag you maybe? I don't know. But so if I tell him, but interestingly enough, he's the guy I'd call if I'm driving down the freeway and broke down and I needed someone to come pick me up.
Yeah. That was
How
what
much
we
more
discussed.
critical is it if I need to be picked up right now because I'm in a very low spot?
Yeah.
Can I take the risk and trust him? And can I really, and this is going to help our friendship. It's either going to end it because I find out I can't, or it's going to strengthen it and build it because I find out I could. But I'll never know unless I try.
Yeah. You mentioned the broken down side of the road thing, and it comes to a point where we had an episode not too long ago called Investing in Friendships. And we discussed things that we do for our friends. And if you've ever moved, or you've ever flown somewhere.
I got ratchet straps.
Right? Right? So you those are two things.
Who's
When
gonna take me to
someone
the
says,
airport?
hey, do you want to take me to the airport? No, I don't want to take you to the airport.
But
But you're my friend and I will.
Yeah, man.
If you've ever flown anywhere, if you've ever moved, whoever helped you move, whoever took you to the airport, that's the person you call. If you've ever gotten a flat tire on the side of the road, as you mentioned, whoever helped you, even if it was AAA, that's the person you call. That's the person you can trust with this conversation.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have moved. A lot of people have been to an airport or flown somewhere, and if you haven't, hopefully you get there one day. But I think that's what people need to realize. It's those same people. Nobody wants to help anybody move.
No.
But they do it anyway. Because you're worth it. You are worth their time.
Yeah.
And don't ever forget that.
And I think that, and you're saying that, we got to realize we can choose, I can choose to put aside the stigma that I'm carrying around the subject of suicide.
Yeah.
I can talk about it freely and confidently. I've been through it, dealt with it, all that kind of stuff. And I can now have a passion about it because I've let down all the shame and guilt around it. It's not about weakness. It's not about failure. It's about wrestling. But you're wrestling against yourself and you can't win. So it's time to wrestle with somebody, not as an opponent, but as a team to battle whatever the thoughts are. And that's where the power comes in strength, is in team.
It's good stuff.
And if I could say something real quick.
No.
Okay, I'll see you guys later.
Cute.
I still remember, Michael, when you told me. It was at PM at the seminar, and it was I think it was before one of the days you called me.
This very seminar that you called him for.
Yeah.
That
And it was
weekend
literally
seminar.
out of the blue.
Okay.
I was going to a seminar. I was like, you know what? Haven't talked to Michael in a bit. Let's give him a call. And Michael, they're doing one. It's close to our house. Let's go. And especially because, and I think I've shared this with you, Kyle. Michael and I have kind of gone through our personal development at the same time, and it's fantastic because I can bounce off what I'm going through, and he can bounce off what he's going through, and we understand each other because we've got that layer of vocabulary. And
Yeah, we got a language, it's
Yeah.
unique to
And when you shared that with me, not when he told me, when you shared that with me, it was, I didn't know how to react, right? Because I've never been in that situation
Stunned you.
before. But at the same time, I knew you well enough to know if I were to tell you the things that I have always heard that I need to say, like, oh, Michael, you're loved and don't feel this way and, things will get better. That's not what you needed. You needed to work it out yourself. And I still remember the only thing I did was was just quiet and just stood there listening to you as you were pouring this out and kind of putting the pieces together in your head. And the biggest moment that I remember about that entire weekend was, and so for our audience at home, I think this was a small, I think maybe 90 people or so were at the seminar. And then at the very, very end of this weekend-long seminar, people can go up and share if they wanted to. And Michael goes up and shares his story, exactly what he shared with us. You know, he's like, shared his entire journey. And I remember you took that floater, the bobber, and gave it to the facilitator, the person who was in charge. And you were like, this is the thing that has held me onto life. And I would like to gift this to you. And I wish you guys could have seen him afterwards, because that was the moment that I was think of you, and I'm like, he's never going to be the same again. And it's funny because I talked to you about this afterwards, because the facilitator was like, oh, thanks.
I think.
Like, what am I going to do with this, you know? And he was like, oh, thank you, Michael. And I looked over at Michael, and he just got a big smile on his face, because I know Michael didn't give it to him. It was what Michael was giving up.
Yeah.
It was the past that Michael was like, you know what?
Let go.
This is my past. How am I going to move forward? And a lot of the times that I talk to you now and I hear about all the stuff that you're doing, working with the jail system, working with veterans, working with the military, like there's so much that you are doing right now. He's happily married. Like I love you. Absolutely love you.
That's okay, but
Absolutely love
I'm
you.
not trading her in.
Well, what if I get you some flowers?
She is my flower.
There you go. I like it.
But yeah. And actually, as you're saying it too, the thing is too, he's like, it was one of the things. No, I don't need you. Keep it for a moment. You know, no, I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh yeah, he was fighting.
He was
with
kind of
you.
like, well, you know, he was having
Yeah.
his own resistance after teaching us about resistance. But but think about it, he didn't want to take the responsibility either,
Yeah.
or whatever was attached to it, which is fine if he threw it away or whatever else. It doesn't matter, because like you say, I was giving up. It wasn't like whatever, but I just felt that need because of that transformation.
It's perfect timing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, what can we grab a hold of?
How long had you
To
had
end-
it before that?
About 2 weeks.
Okay. So it's very, very recent.
Yeah, it was enough time where mid-December. This was the end of January, so 5-6 weeks. And it was that wrestling through that whole process and going through and stuff. But knowing that all of that stuff was still there culminating because of the crisis that was going on. It was a fascinating process. But it is, again, going back to where we're at, we all wrestle with things. And those are usually our own ideas, our own thoughts, our own beliefs, are the lies that are in our head. And really in some of the ministry work we do, we work with people and going back, and when's the first time you believed that? Again, as I mentioned, say 4 or 6 years old. Great, well, what was the lie you believed about yourself? Right? I'm not good enough? Has anyone worked? That's what I'm always battling with. I've got whole kinds of episodes when that was sewn in, right? You know, not worth anything, not loved, not cared about, not, then it's amazing how many more knots just keep knotting you up, right?
Yeah.
And the fact is, okay, great. Hand those over. Surrender that. Transfer that. Give that up. Now, what's the truth that God speaks about us? What is the truth about who we really are? Our character, our integrity, our identity, what we contribute, what we give. Isn't it amazing? And we've gone through exercises, together. It's real easy to criticize ourselves. It's very difficult in our culture to compliment ourselves. Tell me something great about you.
We actually did this in another episode.
Did
where
you?
It was so difficult for us to compliment ourselves.
But I can go compliment him. Oh, you're just awesome, dude. Hey, the whole deal. But tell me great something about. No, that's pride, and that's all false pride, actually.
I'm supposed to be humble.
No, you're
Yeah.
not. No, you're
Right.
not. We're supposed to be,
according to society.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly. We talk about it, but that's not what humble is. Humbleness is not saying, hey, and again, it's not glorifying yourself.
Yeah. Not to be
But,
braggadocious.
hey,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate it. That what we did contribute was good. I feel good about that. Thank you for recognizing it. It's good to appreciate what you do. We want acceptance. Start accepting ourselves. And that led into another thing that we were talking about earlier. Is one of the things that are most powerful for me, and I, study, read the Bible and so forth, and have a very strong faith in those foundations. And in there's the question or the statement of the greatest commandment, right, for that culture. And the greatest commandment went something like that: it's to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, spirit, strength, every essence about you, okay, different aspects and so forth. And it was interesting because then he said, and the second one is like it, or how it's reflected or how you walk it out, is to love your neighbor as yourself. Now, we've heard these principles in lots of different aspects. And as I was asking you, and I'll ask you guys and the audience as well, what does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself? I mean, if that's a command, which is like a real strong suggestion, it's like what you should do. How do you love your neighbor as yourself? What does that look like? What's the capacity? And I wrestled with this. I mean, I was, enlightened and when I was going through that, looking at things, went, that's what that means. And I started teaching marriage enhancement courses based on that principle. I can only love him based on how I love myself, right? Because I got to love him how I love myself, as I love myself. So the degree of which I don't love myself is the limitation, the greatest limitation of which I can love him. Damn. Because if I only love myself this much, I'm not going to give the same, I'm going to give a little less even, right? I want to hold some back for me. So to the limited degree that I love myself, accept myself, value myself, is the limitation, the greatest limitation to the degree that I can actually love him. And that woke me up. Because I couldn't look in the mirror and see how great I was. Because I was constantly looking at myself through all the rejection that I was receiving in my eyes. I'm not good enough, I did this, I failed here, I messed this up, they don't this, I got, all the judgments. And most of them aren't true, they're just what I believe other people are saying. But I'm holding on to as my truth. And now defining myself by that. And when I look in, I'm just reminded. Versus, you rock. Hey, you know what? This is a great day because I get to pour into other people's lives, whatever that looks like. I have this gift, I have this character, I have this capability, I have something that I can offer someone else in hope, love, joy, peace. This is a season, right? Do I? Yeah. Only if I believe it. And when I believe it, then I can do it. And that's part of the service, which is that third component, serving, giving, contribution. You can only give out of the depth of what you have, and if it's that shallow, it's not much. We all say, is a water bottle half full or half empty, right? Doesn't matter. It just needs to be filled up and overflowing, right? Because we just need to leak out, pour into others. And if I'm looking to figure out, well, let's see, it's a little bit less than half full, but it's a little bit more than half empty, but it's this, just fill it up. There's always a source to get more. Otherwise, I'm looking at it from a scarcity point of view. And that scarcity...
You're going in without limit, right?
Yeah. And out of scarcity is out of fear. And that's what grips us. That's what holds us captive. The two greatest emotions is fear and love. And actually, it's the same chemicals or different chemicals, but the same results in the body, sweaty palms and so forth. But complete opposite spectrums. One's empowering me, and one's disempowering me. One's taking from me. And one I take from others, where the other I just give freely. Because I'm not worried, because I have an abundance. So.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
With that, I'd like to share a couple of things as well. Through this episode, we want to give our listeners multiple points of view. You have several. You share both sides. First-hand experience as well as, I'll say, second-hand experience. And personally, I have a second-hand experience that was a huge challenge for me to, we'll say, overcome or deal with, cope with, accept, all of the above. was a very close friend of mine, my buddy Jason Coleman. Our parents were friends before we were an inch in our daddy's pants. We'll call it that. So we kind of grew up as friends. We would have sleepovers. We would play together. Our parents would hang out. We would go cause trouble. We would play hide and go seek from our parents. When it was time for him to go home and time for me to go home, nope, we were outside in the street hiding behind cars, in the yard, whatever we could do to hang out together more as kids, to cause trouble, and to cause our parents grief, because that's what we did. That's what we did. He moved to Puyallup. We still hung out. We kept in touch. Our parents would drop us off on the weekends. I would stay with him a weekend. He would stay with me a weekend. And we would hang out. Very, very close friends. And in our adult lives, after college and stuff, he moved to Vegas. And I'd been meaning to go down there and visit him. And he had come back a couple of times. And one time he'd come back, I hung out with another time. I was really excited. I hadn't seen him in a while. And I was going to go to Vegas for the weekend. And I was like, yo, we got to link up. And he was like, oh, shit, I think that's the weekend I'm coming home. So I was like, oh, damn. So we tried to figure it out. The weekend I was going to Vegas was the same weekend he was coming home. It was a holiday weekend. I can't remember if it was Memorial Day or Labor Day. I forget. And so we never got a chance to cross paths. And before that, I didn't realize it then. I realize it now, but at the time I didn't have the tools to understand what was going on. He had reached out to me a little more than usual because we were both busy, right? Quote unquote busy with life. We were 20-something-year-old kids. We thought we were pretty good looking. We liked to hang out and have drinks and hang out and do whatever we wanted to do, right? So we were busy with that. And I didn't recognize him reaching out to me a little bit more. You know, hey, we need to hang out. We should definitely hang out. Let's get together. Yeah, definitely. Let's absolutely do that. I'm in 100% agreement. You're my boy. I want to hang out with you. I didn't realize that our time to hang out was finite. And I didn't have the tools to recognize that he may have been conveying that to me. That took me a long time to understand. And I'll never forget the day I got a phone call from a mutual friend of ours telling me that he had hung himself. They were all out hanging out. It was another friend that had moved to Vegas with him, and he just said he wasn't feeling good, wanted to go back and relax and get some rest. And everyone just kind of, okay, you know, try to get him to stay and hang out with what your friends do, right? You're hanging out, you're young, you're 20-something, everything's good, it's all smokes and jokes, and you're having a good time. Not realizing what's happening underneath. He goes home early. They get back later on that night and find him. That was a phone call I'll never forget. And the first thing I said was, you gotta be fucking joking. Who jokes about that? Nobody. But that's the first thing that came out of my mouth. It's not a laughing matter. It's not a joke. I wanted to believe it was. I doubted it. I didn't believe it could happen. So first came doubt, right? When you deal with any loss or death, that's what I felt. Then all the pain and the realization that it really did happen. And then for me, it was questions. Why? Why did it happen? What could I have done? How come I didn't do anything? Why was I not a better friend? That led to a whole mess of feelings, right? So the memorial service was absolutely beautiful. He was loved by so many people. The church was overflowing. The doors were open. Not everyone could even get in. It was a church in downtown Puyallup. I can't remember the name of the church right now. Not too far from the fairgrounds. And to see the service and to see how many people and how loved he was, you would just have more questions. How? Why? I don't understand. You were loved by so many people. Why? Why did you feel that this was the right decision to make? And after that, it led to me asking myself, how come I didn't do anything about it? How come I didn't recognize this? How come I didn't see this? I wish we would have hung out together. I can't remember exactly what we did the last time we hung out. All these questions I had, these feelings of inadequacy, because I felt that it was my responsibility to prevent this, and I couldn't do it. After the service, in the burial, I didn't visit the gravesite for about 6 years because I was afraid, because I thought I didn't deserve to be there and to visit and pay respects again because I couldn't do something about it. For a long time as well, because he was such a close friend of mine and I had nothing but good things to say about him, I defended suicide as a choice. Because you weren't going to tell me anything bad about my friend that made this choice. You're not allowed. You didn't know him. I don't care what your general thoughts are about the subject or the action. I felt stronger about it. So I defended his action because I defended him. And I realized that right, wrong, or indifferent, I think what should have happened is just open up the conversation and to not say the word so fast. Committed suicide. Committed suicide. Say it. Think about it. Hear it. It shouldn't be taboo. It needs to be discussed. And if I would have had the tools then that I have now and the understanding that I have now at that time, things would be a lot different. And he may still be here with us today. It's hard to say that, right? And it still brings some emotions to me, and it always will. And I'm okay with that now. I wasn't before, right? It was the wound I didn't want to open back up. It was the wound I let fester on its own and scab up, and it was probably infected, and it was sore and tender, just like that wound that gets infected. Anytime you get near it, it hurts. So I didn't bring it up. I didn't talk about it. It was taboo. If I started feeling a certain kind of way about it, what did I do? Probably had another beer. Probably had another shot of whiskey. Probably called more people to hang out with. I battled my own demons dealing with it and found out a lot about myself. And I think it's led me to be able to maybe recognize more of those things. And it gave me the strength to go and finally visit him on his birthday. Thank you. So it's still a source of pain for me at times, but I welcome it. Because the reason why it hurts so much is because it felt so good when we would hang out when we were kids. And that's okay. And that's it, man. That's all she wrote.
Recognize there is a loss,
Yeah,
but those good memories are not lost.
exactly.
It's funny how you guys were mentioning like memories, and you knew somebody who was extremely close to you that committed suicide. I knew somebody from growing up. We grew up together, and she killed herself this last year. And this is before anybody had spoke. I was writing this all down and talking about knowing her for years, that we used to play whenever, it'd snow. We'd all have the snowball fights and hang out. But what I noticed is her showing more and more negativity throughout her social media. And I wrote the last sentences, I feel like maybe I could have stopped it. And hearing, like, you know, Rohit reaching out, in that moment stopping you. You questioning, why didn't you reach out? You know, that puts the weight on the people that might realize it but didn't reach out. Because it is a sore subject. You don't know how to bring this up to somebody who might be feeling it but doesn't know. But you have a gut feeling. I didn't know. I didn't have the tools. We never, I mean, like I said, we weren't close. But the fact that she was my childhood friend, and now I can't say hello. I can't hang out in the snow. You know, those things that would remind me of her will always be there. The memories will always be there. But the question of, could I have stopped it? Could I have just said, hey, do you want to go grab some coffee? You know, it sucks. And it's she's gone, but she's never forgotten, obviously. You know, and it's tough for me because I've contemplated suicide myself. I tried once. Obviously, it didn't work.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I blame myself for my mom dying. And this is something I haven't told really anybody but close friends and family. Because she was already pretty sick, but me yelling at her, I yelled at her over some stupid shit, and I left to go upstairs to go take a shower, and I just get a phone call from my dad saying, come downstairs, and he dropped the phone, and all I hear is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What if I didn't say anything? Would she be here with me today?
So, Amit, thank you for your courage to share. Can you do one more thing that's courageous? And that's really honestly look in your heart and know that what you did not cause her death.
That's what I was gonna say is after having those deep thoughts, I had gone into the hospital. It was other related medical issues. Sure. It was just me being in the hospital, and at that time, all I had was laying there thinking. So my darkness kept growing and growing. Mm-hmm. To the point where I reached out to Rohit. That's why I was like, as soon as you said that you talked to him and it sparked a moment, is when I had the conversation with him, is your mom wouldn't, he said it to me, but he said your mom wouldn't judge you based off the last 15 minutes that you knew.
Yeah. But you are.
And that sentence alone is 100% true. It's something that I never thought of because I'm sitting there blaming myself for my mom dying. But I know she wouldn't be mad. She was sick. It happened. But I'm taking the energy and using it for those last 15 minutes instead of the 27 years that I knew her.
Yeah.
I mean, she made me the man who I am today. I know she's proud. I know she's happy up there. And I can't be mad at myself for what happened.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's
Thanks
been
for trusting us, and thanks for having the courage to share for them.
Yeah. I feel like it's something to get off my chest. It's a weight. But I hope this message helps, one of the people, the 20,000 people who download our episodes, or the constant subscribers, the people that listen every week. You're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason we chose the title is because you guys actually matter. Everybody here matters. There's someone who will love you. Always is someone there to help you. Like you're saying, a team. My 4 pillars throughout the dark time was my wife Stephanie, my best friend Kamal, my nephew Chetan, and Rohit. Dad's always there. He's my family. But without these guys, I don't know where I would be today. And when I consider my family growing and my family not just being blood, but being who are there for me day in, day out, who will be there at 2 a.m. to help me on the freeway, to take me to the airport, to, do anything like that. I can trust those guys. And having that team and that foundation to talk to just... What Rohit does best is just listen. He's doing exactly what he does right now when we talk. He just literally sits there
and looks at
and
you
listens.
and says nothing.
And the thing is, I want him so badly to say something.
Right?
Give me some... No. He's like,
say something. Let me stop talking.
Because
right
that's
now.
when I see it in your eyes, and I see it in other people's eyes when they're talking about something, just and they're emotional and they're just looking for just that little olive branch to hold on to for me to say it's okay, by me interrupting what's going on in here, because you're having a connection between here and here, and
head and heart.
Yeah. And, sorry.
Yeah, for the listeners.
Yeah, YouTube people, you're still good. But when we were talking, you and we've discussed personality styles on the podcast. You're an owl, amongst the most depressed, because you overanalyze everything, and you just needed to have these thoughts that have been in your head that you'll try to talk to someone else, and what do you get in response? Kyle, it's okay, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's not your fault. Like, whatever. And it's like, just let me throw up my emotions. Mm-hmm. And I still remember, just the same thing with Michael. You just see it. It's like,
well, that's the thing. While it's happening,
as soon as we talked about that, the clock.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
In the hospital?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The profound moment of my whole relationship, if I would have had it on the clock, would have been just the 1 second left that I was fussing about, instead of the whole time.
Mm.
All right. But
that's huge.
Yeah, it's with the whole conversation, even like what we think about throughout universe and time and all of that, like all that span, and then how much we've lived throughout it, right?
Mm-hmm. The dash.
It's just that moment of what we're so focused on, and not the 27 years of me going to Graham Hill Park with her, or like Graham Hill School with her, the walks, interactions with family, like all those memories are still there. Those are still some things that I can hold on to. But the thought of me killing myself because I thought I killed my mother would have put the stress on the 4 pillars. The friends who were nearest to me, like you're saying, is I'm taking everything that I held and dumping it over here. That thought, even it saddens you, but it also it's a selfish thing, but at the same time it's all you think about when you're in that moment is I don't want this pain. I don't know where to go for this pain. Mm-hmm. So you reach for the gun, you reach for hanging yourself, drowning yourself, driving a car 90 miles an hour off I-90 was a thought that's crossed. I'm driving like I could literally just...
I could hit that.
Just do this. Just do this and go flying. And it's that instant gratification that I could have got if I didn't have these friends to reach out to. Mm-hmm. And them reaching out to me constantly, like Rohit does. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I love it.
Absolutely.
Don't stop.
I felt like he'd stop pestering me.
But That's literally what I wrote. Is Rohit and I, Steph and my mom, they got so close together. Seeing my wife be as emotional as I was, because my mom gave her the love of, yes, you are my daughter-in-law, before she passed away.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad Stephanie got to see that. My mom loved her, you know, and she would be happy and proud of what she's done today. I still blame myself, but this is something that I have to learn and grow from. It could have caused it, but it's not the reason that she passed away. And I live with that every day. Every day I think about her at night. It's like the owl, my mind is constantly running, and at night it never shuts off, which is why I don't go to bed till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and until you fall asleep. But change is, like you're saying, the new normal. I hate change. Hate it, because there's no consistency. You're throwing a wrench into like the garbage disposal. That's basically what's happening, and now you have to deal with it. And that sort of action, that sort of change that you have to do is scary. This room means more to me than probably Rohit, probably to a lot of you. This is where 2 points in my life have changed. One being when I left my former work and becoming an adult into working my current job and switching how I view life took place here within 2 chairs right here with Rohit. The other one being at the hospital, but the group that I have here for you guys to talk to, and I've said this multiple times, when I was in the hospital, all I could think about was the podcast, because having someone to talk to and having this sort of community, this brotherhood, this sort of passion together meant something. We all have different backgrounds. Like you mentioned in the friendship episode, we might not hang out so much outside of work, but I still believe you as one of my bros, because there's so much that I can talk to you about and relate with you. I can trust you to go, talk about certain things. I can get that type of a feedback where I'm not being judged. I'm not being criticized for something. I'm not getting the insert Hallmark quote here. I'm not getting that. I'm getting actual results. And I think that's what I want to stress for all the listeners, is knowing that, I might have said it, hey, call me, email me if you are ever considering it, because this is something that I will listen. I've gone through this with you guys, and I just don't want any friends to get hurt.
And you're all our friends.
Yeah.
Amen.
And with you saying that you still have to deal with all these emotions that you have going on, and you said that you have to deal with it on your own, you actually do not have to deal with it on your own. That's a big issue, especially around this topic. Rohit, you brought it up as well. That's something that you have to do it yourself.
And that's Ruben, sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind sharing with the audience about your specialty when it comes to this?
Yeah. So, kind of my background is I worked I was in the military, but then I also worked for a military contractor. So, in that, one of the things that I had to do was I had to interact with a lot of people that were serving, right? Soldiers, right? Men and women, different ages, ethnicities, and so on. And everyone has their own way of how they interact with each other, different branches, how they interact with each other as well. But what I've learned from doing that is I had to take a class on suicide prevention. So when I took that class, I was like, okay, this is, be cool. I would definitely like to learn this topic. I deal with a lot of people that have that. As you know, a lot of soldiers, right, go through that issue, PTSD, even before they even go overseas or do something traumatic. That brings up a lot of emotions, having to go and do that. Especially on the way back, they've been through so much trauma that it happens. So one of the things that we did, and one of the job functions that I had with being a contractor was I had to deal with a lot of people that were being deployed and coming back. So I took this prevention class. It's called ASSIST, Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. And with that, there's a couple of points that I kind of want to make, and it's very specific on what I'm saying, right? So most people, right, with thoughts of suicide, they actually do want to live. They don't want to actually commit suicide. And again, it's most people. Not everyone, most people. Because, great example, okay, you're carrying that float, right?
Yeah.
For like a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If you really wanted to do something, you would have done it a long time ago.
Right.
Right? Something said, not yet. Right? Within you, something said, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
You reaching out to your brother. You know, Rohit reaching out to you. For some reason, Rohit reached out to you, right? And it helped. People send out invitations when they are in these dark places. Not everyone catches them, but it happens, right? Again, not having the tools to understand. It just happens, and you don't realize it till after it happens.
Yep.
Right? Great example with you, Kyle, right?
Yeah.
Most people think about suicide, but they signal their pain. A lot of times it's, you know, they do abnormal behavior. And that's one of the things that were brought up, right? Unusual behavior. You have Rohit. If Rohit all of a sudden decided to be not so positive all the time, what would you think, Amit?
Something's definitely wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, if Rohit didn't reach out to you all the time trying to hang out, Michael,
Mm-hmm.
you think, okay, what's going on here, right? I need to call Rohit, see what's going on. It's different behavior that you don't see from that person that you just need to try to reach out. Find out what's going on, right? It's important for those people around, and this kind of was brought up as well, right? You have to hear and see and respond to those invitations, right? You're not always gonna, you hear, but you're not hearing, right? And it's very important that you kind of take some kind of class, some kind of prevention class where you can kind of learn a little bit of these skills. You don't have to be an expert, you know, and work at a suicide hotline or be a counselor or something like that. But having some sort of skill, some kind of understanding would definitely help. Because you never know who's going to reach out to you. Mm-hmm. It could be a complete stranger. It could be a family member. It could be a friend. So in that class, a lot of things that I did learn, right, was discuss suicide risks and openly and safely. One of the things that was very drilled into my head when we took that class was it's a saying that they go and they teach you was ask the damn question. Do you want to commit suicide? Right? You're like, whoa, that's kind of, straightforward and blunt. Mm-hmm. But you'll be surprised on how many people will actually say yes. Again, back to my job when I was working for that contractor, I dealt with hundreds, even thousands of people a day. And you'd be surprised when they start calling you just for random stuff. And then 5 minutes later, they call you again because they're asking another question. And then 2 hours later, they're calling again about asking some other question. So that's abnormal. Why would one person call back so often in a day asking questions? Say, hey, are you feeling all right? They're like, yeah, I'm fine. It doesn't sound like you're fine. Let's have a conversation, right? And you start talking to them a little bit, and it's just random conversation. It has nothing to do with anything specific. It's just a random conversation. And then you get to that point where you're like, something is really wrong. Then you just ask the question. But another thing too, what you don't want to do is when you have somebody and you know something's wrong, you don't leave them and say, hey, you know what? This is really good that we're connecting, but I have to go and we need to talk later. Give me a call later on. That later on may never happen. So it's very important. When you know something's wrong, you ask the damn question, and it's very important that you come up with a plan of action. You show that you care and you're invested in the friendship. Even if it's a stranger, you're investing in that person, and you come up with a plan of action. And you take action right then and there. Right? It doesn't have to be, we're going to go talk to this hotline. And then, cool, you talk to them, I'll see you later. It's not about that. It's more investment. You need to do more than just hand them off to somebody. You have to be there, coach them through, help them. Again, you're not going to be an expert in suicide, but you have some investment to help that person. Right?
That's one of the first things I noticed. I never mentioned this to you because when I think I first started, I was still sorting through a lot of the feelings and emotions that I just shared. But you had that on your desk when you sat next to Rohit.
Yeah.
It was right on the edge. It was displayed proudly. And I remember seeing it. And that stuck out to me. And I was like, man, that's awesome. And back then, I thought, I wish I would have had that. Right? Because, as you mentioned, you can gain these tools from other sources. Unfortunately, I had to gain them through a huge tragedy, right? You gained them by other means, and you were able to help individuals. And I thought that was huge. I'll never forget that. When Rohit and I were talking about this episode, I mentioned how perfect it was that you had just recently become more involved in the podcast, and how I remember seeing that certificate on your desk, framed. Not framed, but it was in like one of those hard plastic sleeve things. I don't remember if it was in a frame or not. It was a hard plastic sleeve.
Yeah, the hard plastic thing
that you had up. Yeah. And I mentioned that to Rohit, that you had that. I don't know where it came from or why you had it, because I never had a discussion with you about it until just now listening to you. So thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And from my own personal experience, I've had a moment that did change my life, and I did consider suicide as well. It's when I had my accident when I was in the military. I broke both my ankles and my left leg all at the same time. And I was practically bedridden for like almost a year. Couldn't walk. I was 21 years old, and I had to physically learn how to walk again. So it was a very low point in my life, but the one thing I did not want to do was burden everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I felt I was a burden to everyone in my family that was helping me out, right? Because I couldn't do anything myself at all, right? I couldn't go get my own food. I couldn't do anything. I had to rely on other people. So it's a very low point. But that low point and that burden that I was placing on everyone else also is what turned me around, because I was like, I'm not going to do anything that's going to put more burden on my family. I did not want to do that. So, I changed my mentality.
That far, though.
Yeah.
At least your thought process went that far.
Yeah. And that was before I even had this training, right?
Yeah.
So it that did help me, especially when this opportunity came up for me to take this training. It was something I wanted to do from personal experience, but then also to help other people. So it was a very powerful training that I took, and I do appreciate it, and I do still to this day apply it where I see I can.
Is this a training that our listeners can take? Is this
Yeah.
special to something or how?
No. It's a training that our listeners can take, and I will, as you're the podcast social media guy, I will post this. I will put it out there for everyone. Also, that suicide hotline does help, and just to also know if you know somebody that's going through changes or unusual behavior, or they're contemplating suicide, that hotline is not the only answer. There's other options out there. You can go think outside the box. There's have them talk to their family, even if you're their family and you're trying to figure out, where can I take my son, my daughter, wife, husband, or whoever it is in your family, where can I take them? You can go to the YMCA if it's open. You can go to a school and go talk to a counselor there, just to get that foot in the door to get somewhere you have to go. Because guarantee you, at that heat of the moment when something like that happens, you don't know what to do, right? But just take that first step to someone that you think could possibly be a help, and then they'll help you.
Something that I heard as you guys were talking is that I want to draw back to attention, especially as me being a listener right here, and those that are out on the show as well, is the fact that you guys mentioned the word tools. And so I was sitting there going, okay, so what are the tools? Because I don't know what the tools are. And if I don't know what the tools are, then what do I do? Because they know there's tools. Or in fact, you all said you didn't have tools at the time. And I don't have tools now. So what do I do? Where do I get these tools? I mean, I got a Craftsman set, but that doesn't work for me. Right? And some of the things that I heard in that, I want you guys wanted to start that. But again, it's one of the things that you were mentioning is recognizing that there's an invitation. That they're projecting things out. And there's a lot of different things, and some of those resources out there will help you in that. But even like you said, change in character, change in demeanor. And one of the things we recognized was, and they start giving away all their stuff, because they're just, hey, you want this? I'm not going to use it anymore. What do you mean not going to use it anymore? I mean, there's some indicators. So it'd be good to hear what some of those are. And the other tools I notice in the process is your listening. You were mentioning just where Rohit was, just listening, accepting where you're at. It's not out. Really tell me. In fact, one of the great questions I use, and part of that is, so tell me more about that. What's going on? And not here's a solution, but how can I support you? What do you need most right now? And I mean, if you want to talk about just relationships, husbands and wives, and you want to figure out, one of the things I learned was the fact is, what do you need me to do? Do you need a solution, or do you need me to just listen? And amazing, when I just listen, they can actually go through the process and that big ball of wire and spaghetti, and I'm in my little waffle. If everybody knows what that means, right? So they'll figure it out, and they're like, okay, great, thanks for and go on to merry own way. It's like, what'd I do? I did the most valuable thing, was just listen and be with and present. I didn't have to have a solution.
I think
for
that's
me,
what most people want, though.
Yeah.
That's
Who's the one that wants the solution?
the ones who are asking. And that's why I got mad, not necessarily mad at Rohit, but that's why I was just like, why aren't you saying anything?
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't say anything is what made me, like you're saying, take that ball and unwind it, and me figuring it out myself where the solution is. That, I think, is the pinnacle of understanding of you can change. This is within your power to do.
So I'm going to flip some other things on that. Does he have your answer?
Not directly.
Where is your answer?
Right here.
Yeah. So you can ask questions.
Yeah.
So tell me more. What's going on? Everything I've talked right now has actually just been a question.
Yeah.
Does he have your answer? Where is your answer?
Yeah.
Because I can give you an answer, and it may work for me, but all you've done is transfer the responsibility to me if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, that guy, he said that this is, whatever. And what he's really doing is empowering you to discover what's in you to find the solution that's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. I got it. It's difficult at times. It means we got to get down and open up the stuff we don't want to see. Yeah. So these are possibly some of the tools that you guys are looking at. But the thing I also heard you guys say I wanted to draw attention to is your team. how do we recognize who's on our team? How do the listeners find people to put on their team? Especially when they're in isolation or in a desperate moment and they don't feel they have a team. You guys are lucky to recognize that you had the team of 4, that where you were at and everything else. But you were walking in a whole bunch of the grief statement process, right? Blame, shame, guilt, transfer, all those different things, denial.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's the people we can bring around ourselves? When we talk about the recovery programs, it's okay. Hey, where's your 5 people in descending order you can reach out and call when you're in that and you're wanting to relapse or you want to do this? Who can you reach out? Not the guy who's already in relapse. That's not going to work, right? You find the people there that you can trust that are your strength. And really, prayer is a great way to go for that as well. But it's where do you get your strength? Where do you get that team? And where do you build so that you can succeed together? And internet has lots of resources. You're talking about it. So again, we go to get resources just to share resources. And when I'm locked up, I need to turn to somebody that knows how to do that for me or with me. So those are some of my things, if there's anything else.
That's great.
I know we're probably getting ready to wrap up soon. There's 4 things I just want to say really quickly. One, we've shared with the audience at least 2 of the people that have contacted me about this, and Michael and Amit. There are a lot. And because people know that they can come to me and they can trust me, I had a conversation with Gummel last week about this episode, and we were both hoping that you would say something. And knowing that you did means the world. Mm-hmm. I respect everyone's trust in me. And it's because that I'm saying this. It wasn't really till this year that I realized how common it is for people to feel this way. I've had more people this year tell me that they've been thinking about it or that they want...
What is it? I need you to say it.
Sorry.
I need you to say
it. You're right.
I need you to say it.
Say the word.
It's not taboo. Don't
You're
treat
right.
it like it is. It shouldn't be.
It's like he who must not be named. He's like, no, it's Voldemort.
Permission to address the subject.
So
Yeah.
Give them permission to address the subject.
I've had more people reach out to me telling me that they've been thinking about suicide or that they've attempted suicide at some point in their life, more so this year than before. And I don't know what that is, some change in me or that I'm attracting this, whatever the case is. But the reason why I'm saying that is because it's something that there's so much hurt behind. And one of we didn't read it on air, but it was so powerful. I'm going to kind of summarize it. A lady shared feedback that her son, she's fearful that he's so suicidal that she comes home from work every day so scared that is this the day that she's going to come home and find her son. I'm going to read it. It's a little long, but please bear with me because it's that important to me. My son was depressed and had thoughts of suicide. I took him to counseling, therapist, put him on meds, but he eventually refused. He was 18, so unfortunately I could not legally force him, nor would his counselors talk to me about what was going on in his life. He dropped out of school his senior year with 1 semester left. His emotions are up and down. He still hates life, but says to me that he would never kill himself. It's the hardest thing as a parent to watch your, quote, adult child go through. Parents, notice the signs early. If your kids are emotional, crying, sleeping all day, they don't want to do anything, they don't celebrate their own birthdays, etc. Before it's too late, and you have no control over their mental health. I get scared every day coming home from work in fear that he's taken his life. Now when I read that, it's so far outside of anything that I know. And when we did this survey, and this will be really quickly, 25% of the people responded saying they have attempted to commit suicide. That means of the 60 people who filled out this, 15 of my friends have attempted not thought about, attempted. 15 of my friends at one point felt so low about their situation that escape was their best solution. And that hurts me because I'm available all the time. Or at least I say I am. If 15 people have attempted and haven't reached out to me, then it's something that I'm doing. I need to make myself more available. I need to go out there and say, look, here's my phone number. Anytime, reach out to us. And that's my last point. Audience, there are 8 of us who are part of this podcast. All of us have an email address at gystpodcast.com. If you want to reach out to any of us, it's just our first name. It's Rohit, Kyle, Sam, Amit, Gummel, Aaron, Ruben, Glenn. It's our first name at GYSTpodcast.com. Night and day, 24 hours a day. No matter where you are, we're here. And to reiterate the seriousness of how much we're here, if you hadn't picked that up from this episode, then we don't know, how to get that across. We're here. And sometimes what I tell people is it helps talking to someone who doesn't know you. Because we feel if we're talking to someone who knows us, there's guilt, there's shame, judgment. But if we're talking to someone who doesn't know us,
I'm not going to see or hear from that person again. It doesn't matter what they think about me.
yeah.
But they listen.
They listen. They listen, damn it. And that's phenomenal. And I think if there's anything else that we can convey to our listeners other than we're here, is that you're worth it. Right?
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
We did this for you.
Really did. Really did. I think that's it, guys. We should wrap.
I just want to throw one thing out there, and this is just my experience. It doesn't mean it's the standard, but holidays were difficult for me because it was a reminder of all the things I lost. It's a reminder of a connection that I didn't have a connection with family or this or that. So as we're entering into a season, if these again, I think it's timely. It's, as we're going through and things are darker, our life our situations may seem darker, realize that there really are people. Build that team. Know who you can turn to. And even if it is just a phone number, there's somebody there that will listen, that will care, that will help in that process.
We're going to share some of those resources for you guys as well. We'll have the email addresses. We'll have the hotline here that Ruben's mentioning, as well as a myriad of other resources out there. But thank you guys for listening today. Thank you guys for coming. You, especially Michael. I've gleaned so much information from you in such little time. It's beyond thankful for it. So thank you.
It was a privilege.
I
seriously.
appreciate it. Thank you.
And for the listeners as well.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Today's episode, I thought about it, Rohit, when you were downstairs. You seemed afraid to say the word suicide, and you kept saying it and treating it like it was an unspoken event. That's the stigma that we need to get around. It is absolutely 100% a tragedy, and I don't want to sit here and say suicide is okay, because it's a challenge that needs to be dealt with, but it's okay to talk about it. I wrote down on some of the notes that I had here that because mental health is considered taboo, that idea is what prevents suicide prevention.
Right.
And what creates hurdles that we have today. And I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that I'm here for you, and that Rohit's here for you, and that Michael's here for you, and that Ruben and Amit and Glenn as well are here for you. But if you don't believe that you matter, and if the stigma behind mental health is considered that it's a taboo subject, continues, you won't make a phone call. You won't create that invitation that Ruben mentioned. And people won't be able to recognize that invitation.
Let me throw one thing, and I want to borrow off of you, Amit, is the fact that often we look at it and not going or choosing not to go to find help because it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
When actually, when you were sharing what yours, all I saw was strength. When you're sharing your story, it was from a place of strength and courage. So
I pondered since we chose a subject if I wanted to talk.
yeah, I got it.
Like it was,
But you know what I'm saying?
I didn't know until right before the episode, right? Amit mentioned to me as I'm building the outline for the episode that he wanted to share some stuff, so we put it in there. We made it work, and I'm really glad you did.
Just one last thing, sorry. I know we're trying to wrap up.
One more last thing.
You're way out. You're right. Just one more.
Along lines of what you just said about Amit, I think it's also important to recognize that there were a few people who reached out to me wanting to be a part of today's episode, but just logistically, we just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah. It would have been a 3-hour episode.
Yeah. But I want to recognize those people as well. And you guys know who you are. I don't want to...
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable saying your names on air.
Confidentiality and trust.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you guys... And we have a lot of friends who pop up on air all the time. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast, reach out to us.
Yeah.
even if it's just listening.
Yeah, we have people who come here and just...
Yeah.
You don't even know they're here because they're just listening.
Yeah.
You know? It's like Amit said, there's something powerful about being surrounded by positivity every couple weeks. Knowing that you're in a safe environment, that you're not going to be judged.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
The end.
Happy holiday.
Happy holidays. So with that, folks, we're going to sign off for you. Thanks once again for listening to another great episode of the GYST Podcast. Get your shit together. GYSTpodcast.com. Visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check out our YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot of resources on YouTube. This video, we're going to have a ton of stuff on there before the actual recording on the podcast today. And again, as we leave you today, just know that you matter. And questions are not a sign of weakness, they're a sign of strength. Strong people don't have all the answers. They're not afraid to ask the question. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you folks next week on another episode of your favorite podcast, the GYST Podcast.
Bye.
Oh, I thought we were going to do silence.
Awesome.
Oh, man.
Can we do a group hug?
Yes.
Glenn,
Right?
Glenn's
Come on.
like the whole time like,
We can come
Glenn,
over.
stop looking at me. You're gonna make me cry. Stop it.
Made him cry.
He's just in there
I was
tearing
right
up.
there with him. So.
I know. That's what.
I wish there was enough room to do a cinnamon roll.
No, that's weird.
Oh, what?
There's room in there.
What's a cinnamon?
For a
roll?
cinnamon roll?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's a cinnamon? roll?
Well, I guess we're going to find out.
It's awkward.
Is
Right.
that like
It's
we all
awkward.
roll up together?
It's awkward for sure.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
Rohit smiles when he says it.
Then it's definitely awkward.
What? It's not awkward for me.
Glenn, come on.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to our GYST podcast. We hope you learned how to get your together.